Guilty pleasure, the phrase people like to use to describe something they personally like, despite it generally not being held in high regard. It can be stuff like playing Overwatch, to listening to country music, or heck, even watching Big Mouth. Oh god! Well, I for one love to hide myself behind this phrase, especially when it comes to anime, because, let's face it, there are a lot of objectively bad or straight trashy anime being released, and if it wasn't obvious by now, I also do watch a lot of it.
But wait, guilty pleasures don't exist? Doesn't liking something just mean that you think it's good?
No, of course not, stupid! Because if that were the case, I would have to say Domestic Girlfriend is good, and I can't just be saying shit like that out loud! Seriously though, aside from stuff like watching isekai for shits or watching ecchi stuff because you're a horny bastard, do you guys have that one special show that you thoroughly enjoy, despite knowing it's also kinda shit and that everyone trashes on it? Well, that's Guilty Crown for me. My guilty pleasure, and honestly just one of my favorite anime. Yeah, it was a pretty popular one back when it released in 2011, mostly for its premise and its visuals, and, well, for the fact it seemed to be heavily inspired off of big classic anime, such as Code Geass, Eureka 7, and Evangelion. And by inspired, I mean someone said, okay, I want to do those too? Kinda? But then they accidentally took some crack at some point? Yeah, let's get into it. 10 years after Japan gets hit by a deadly virus known as the Apocalypse Virus, the nation has fallen under the extreme authoritarian rule of a United Nations military force named GHQ, after saving Japan from the pandemic at the cost of the nation's freedom and independence. Well, a guy named Guy wasn't down for this though, and began a rebel force known as Funeral Parlor to combat GHQ forces and to take back Japan's freedom. Yeah, anyway, this guy isn't actually the main character though, because the story follows this boy named Shu. Of course, just your average awkward high school boy that due to certain circumstances got tangled up with Funeral Parlor and their attempt to acquire some kind of genetic weapon injection known as the Void Genome, in which Shu mostly accidentally got involved with him because he was simping so hard for this girl named Inori, who was a part of Funeral Parlor. So at some point when she's being attacked, he decides to man up and attempt to rescue her from this dangerous situation, and in the process accidentally gets injected by the Void Genome, bestowing Shu the power of the king. Wow, they didn't even fucking try! Alright, well, at least this time around it's like a superpower that lets him essentially use the manifestation of one's heart as a powerful weapon known as a void. The weapon varying based on the person's personality. Can be stuff like a giant sword, a gravity gun, or hell, even pull out a fridge. Imagine what kind of void he'd pull out from Belle Delphine. Holy shit! Anyway, because Shu now has this sick power, Guy then goes on to recruit him into Funeral Parlor's rebel forces, and from there, as you probably guessed, the story revolves around them going on various missions to fight GHQ, using this power of different people's voids in different combat situations. Though things don't exactly go that smoothly. See, the main character is somewhat of a budget Shinji Ikari type character in terms of his sort of wimpy, whiny, and antisocial personality. I mean, hell, the anime producers even said it themselves. So, what that entails is, instead of Shinji getting the robot, it's Shu getting their fucking chest. Oh, come on, man. Well, at least he didn't nut to a comatose girl, Shinji! Anyway, because Shu is a bit of a bitch, he doesn't exactly go along with everything so easily. Though, with Shu specifically, it's a bit more inconsistent as to when and why he's a bitch. He's mostly unwilling to do a lot of things, and is basically sticking around with Funeral Parlor because he has a crush on Inori. You ever join a terrorist org just cause the girl you like is in it? Fucking simp! Overall though, I do understand what they were going for with this character, and it kinda works, I guess. But I bet there's gonna be a lot of people who don't like him, so let's talk about some of the other characters. Like, Guy. He's that cool guy that leads Funeral Parlor. But he's also kind of an asshole. And, wait. He's a simp too? Huh. There's Ayase, the wheelchair girl. That's cool. She's also kind of an asshole. Inori? So if you're wondering what the reception of the show was, well, it was generally heavily mixed. There's the people that love it, but then there's the people that don't like it, and oh my god, some of them are pretty brutal when it comes to bashing and criticizing the problems with the show. Like, look at the size of this review just shitting on it, jeez. But honestly, you know what? I can't entirely disagree with the criticisms either. A lot of the complaints are valid. Like I was saying earlier, the characters are kinda assholes and inconsistently written, as well as just having a disjointed story with plot holes and plot conveniences. Also, the second half of the show in general? What the fuck? The tone of the show almost entirely changes in the second half, and Shu gets all edgy and shit at one point. But it even got to a point where people on 4chan started comparing him to Hitler. Oh my god. Yeah, so without getting into too many more spoilers, it's a bit of a wild ride to say the least, and you know what? Despite literally all the issues I've described, I fucking love it, and still kinda wanna recommend it. It's something I've been wanting to deny about myself for the longest time, but after recently finishing my 4th rewatch of it and still thoroughly enjoying it, yeah, there's no excuses for me anymore. So fuck it, I'm gonna attempt to share with you guys why I love this shit so much, and, well, I guess simply put, Guilty Crown is the pinnacle of anime. Seriously though, I think it's cause this show basically has everything I love about anime in it. One of those things being the director for the show, Tetsuo Araki, best known for also directing Attack on Titan and Death Note, and is known for his over-the-top, intense, and dramatic directing style. Yeah, this dude makes everything hype as fuck, you name it. Action scenes, emotional scenes, potato chip eating scenes, and his hype directing is no different here. For scenes that may have initially been generic, he manages to elevate by making things super flashy to draw in your attention. He's also able to just nail the timing of a scene with the music to have a lot more impact. But goddamn, when he's paired with Hiroyuki Sawano's bumpin' ass music, holy fuck, marry me now! Easily one of my favorite composers with some of the most epic sounding music in the industry, especially here. Honestly, you could put his music over any scene and it will instantly be more hype. But you pair the most hyped director with the most hyped composer, and you basically get the absolute best entertainment. And yet, Guilty Crown still manages to elevate that further by having some of the best looking art and animation I've seen to date. The animators really just put emphasis on making all the action have a lot of visual flair and fluidity. They simply just wanted shit to look cool. So, when you combine all these elements together, ooh, you get some moments like in the first episode, when Shu draws out his first void. Yeah, baby! When the German music gets going, and the girl starts moaning, and then you get to watch Shu beautifully and slowly draw out the sword from Minori, with the camera panning around to show off the hella extra visual flair all over, but then Shu starts flexing by holding up the sword and blasting this huge light from it for everyone to see for no fucking reason. For a scene that can be described as something as dumb as high school boy pulls out comically giant sword from a pair of titties, this shit manages to still captivate me from how fucking cool it is. This anime doesn't even stop there either. Almost every single episode similarly has a really impactful moment or two, obviously varying throughout what's going on, but purely off these merits, Guilty Crown nails it in my opinion. But really, do I only enjoy the show for surface level reasons? Well, no. That's not all it's got. While its plot isn't always cohesive, the stories and events that do occur in some episodes can be pretty engaging and meaningful on their own, despite the characters kind of being the way they are. But at times the show can get a bit campy too, by taking itself a little too seriously, despite its very obvious symbolism and pretentiousness, which honestly provides great entertainment to me in that regard as well. In a similar manner, it kinda reminds me of why I enjoy the story of the video game series Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. So the one that combined anime and Disney characters together actually tries to take itself seriously, but honestly, you know what? At times you'll actually get some genuinely heartfelt and really well set up emotional moments. But then at other times, you get scenes like Goofy getting hit in the head by a dropped boulder and fucking dying, and then Mickey Mouse swearing for revenge as he throws off his little edgy trench coat without winking to the audience even once. And it's kind of the same type of deal here with Guilty Crown too, with it having its share of touching or sad moments to then having random magical J-pop performance or surprise fascist dictator, as well as just a bunch of silly little things here and there. But you really do get the best of both worlds with this type of show, whether you want to watch it ironically or unironically at any given time. Honestly, it was rare that I didn't want to continue watching to see what happens next, because it usually always had something interesting happening. If there's one thing I can say, this anime wanted to do a lot and had a lot of different things going on, to the point where it almost seemed like it wanted to be a bunch of different types of anime in one goddamn show. It's like an action, shonen, drama, high school political, sci-fi, romance, ecchi, mecha, superpower, supernatural, incest, thriller, tragedy anime. And while that does sound like a bit of a clusterfuck at times, yeah, but if nothing else, this show is just very unapologetically anime and rolls with it. It doesn't really care as much for the logistics behind the things it's doing, it just kind of wants to do the anime things and pushes that to the forefront. It specifically thrives off of being an anime and not an adaptation of a manga or light novel, because God forbid it would probably be pretty bad in those mediums. But for what it is and the form we have it in now, I think it's a pretty special piece of entertainment to me. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that Guilty Crown is my guilty pleasure. So I guess the question you have now is, am I recommending this anime to you? Well, no, but yes. Look, I know this video was kinda dumb since it was more so just almost completely my subjective opinion for the positives, and that I also kinda shit-talked it quite a bit. But that's just cause I like doing it. I think if any of the positives I mentioned resonated with you at all, then I would definitely recommend checking it out. Just be prepared to, turn your brain off, and I think you'll have a good time regardless. Also, I know this may seem like a bit of a stretch to say, but at the very least, the anime is a complete package with an actual ending, which is seemingly becoming rare nowadays. It doesn't drag itself out for too long, or, you know, doesn't, completely change the ending to set up for a potential sequel? Anyway, I'll leave this off by asking you guys, what is your favorite guilty pleasure and why? Let me know in the comments because I'm honestly really curious. Well, that's about it.